And while it certainly hasn't looked good in this tournament for Trick versus Condi, I do think there is a way in for Trick because he has shown such a higher level in the past. And if he can return to form, perhaps G2 can make this a much more competitive series.
Yeah, again, get him a Graves. Maybe Ivern is being left open. I don't expect WE to leave it open. They like to ban Kennen, they like to ban Ivern, and then the third one is optional. They actually just banned Lucian against Trick. That is just crazy.
That to me shows you've not been watching this game games that I've been watching.
Yeah, this should be karma ban from G2, and then their third ban is, I'm looking at something like Ashe, and then like take Caitlyn in your first rotation and try and get the best 2v2 bot lane possible, because WE will play around Mystic and Ben in the laning phase so much.
Yeah, and I think that Ashe makes a lot of sense because Mystic has performed so well, not only in lane, but in the late game and finding arrows, specifically against G2, taking him out on Kog'Maw multiple times.
Good also see Graves ban now, because with this Lucian ban, WE are kind of hinting towards Graves, who's the best jungler left open, and of course a very good pick for Trick in the jungle. And with Lulu Karma ban, then you don't have the first pick. Ivern also left open, and WE wants to play the late game style.
This is interesting, and now I'm going to be curious if G2 would try to take Ashe away from Mystic, because the Tahm Kench has traditionally been one of the answers for G2 about these sort of pick compositions, and when you take that safety away from Mithy, they may not feel as comfortable to give that over to Mystic.
That is very true, but with this Ivern pick, you actually also allow G2 to play the Nuno without it being punished. Like, Nuno will do fine against Ivern. Graves is still the traditional go-to pick in a situation like this, but we know G2 wants to play the more late game style. This is another one back from Europe, Trevor. This is a flex pick. Jungle Rumble against Ivern is something we saw quite a lot in the EULCS.
Well, G2, maybe they're going to pull out some surprises at MSI, despite having some experience. This is the first time that Ivern has been first picked for Team WE, and of course, denying that Ashe from Mystic. It's 5 games played for him, and he's had exceptional performance. I like that takeaway.
Yeah, another thing I do love about the Rumble pick here is, one of the things it can open up for is you bring AP that can flex to the top lane. This does give the possibility of an AD assassin for PerkZ, and people have talked about the focus on PerkZ.
True.
And being able to give him something that could perhaps snowball.
I wonder if we're going to see Fizz now from WE. We've seen that as an answer to Rumble quite a few times, because you can still flex it to mid lane in case Rumble is then not a top laner. But WE has valued this Malzahar very highly against G2 specifically. Both games they played Malzahar, and both games Ben did really well.
Yeah, he did do really well in both those games. Plus, he's actually drawing a lot of bans on the champion because it is so much of a comfort pick for him. People are worried about him being able to give this over and how it warps your builds, because almost all your carries are going to essentially need a QSS right off the bat.
It also goes up in value because G2 banned Zyra themselves. That would otherwise have been the answer against this Malzahar.
Lulu also very strong as well. So
also gone.
G2 did kind of set themselves up for that a little bit.
Ooh, so Mithy's digging deep right now to find a pick.
This is something that was actually used a lot in the NALCS as, not, I wouldn't say a lane counter, but an answer to Malzahar, even in the kind of stronger days of it. Guys like Smoothie were playing it quite a lot and having some pretty solid success.
Definitely so, but it is still a tricky laning phase for G2 now. We know WE wants to play around that Mystic lane, and also the late game of a Caitlyn Ivern comp.
It's
always
already terrifying.
It's already scary.
We saw those gold graphs from the analyst desk. G2 playing in the late game for all of their games, really, when it comes to winning. Phase 2 bans. 957 will be denied his Kled. A lot of the primary tanks are still up and available, but so are many of those carries. So difficult options here for Team WE and G2 to answer.
Yeah, again, big picks like Fizz available. Mid lane champions, Syndra, LeBlanc, Orianna, all these massive picks in the mid lane are all available in this draft. Question for G2 is, do you want to blind pick your mid laner, so you have that last pick with the Rumble flex and a potential top laner or potential jungle pick, or do you want to save last pick for PerkZ?
I mean, if Graves is still on the board, that's a pretty compelling argument to grab it up, because it has been Trick's best performing champion. But that said, there is something to be argued for that flex.
I think now with the Fizz ban, you could do that. You could take that Graves, put the Rumble top. They had to ban the Fizz though to actually have that as a possibility. Obviously then, last pick for PerkZ could be huge for G2.
I mean, think of all the mid lane champions still up and available. Syndra's there, Orianna's there. Picks that we've talked a lot about safely blind picking several times in the past.
2 blind picks Xiye has used a lot. Talia and LeBlanc. Again, both available. The LeBlanc has very few counters in lane that you really can bully her with. And Talia can push against most things and then try and leave the lane.
Yeah, so Graves is actually going to get taken away from WE, thinking that it could be the same answer. You know, Syndra blind pick in many cases would be very safe here, but Echo is still available, which may make some players nervous because that is traditionally something that's pretty strong. And Olaf is very powerful with the Taric in combination because you can have that kind of delivery system for your stun. You link up with him, you can send him in and actually do a lot of damage.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways for G2 to start fights right now. Obviously not a late game comp they are running. They're aiming much more for the early to mid game. It's gonna be Olaf jungle, then the Rumble top. That should also be pretty obvious for WE. And then they now know, okay, we have to pick something against Rumble. Well, a tank is a fine choice normally.
And of course, for Expect, let's see how he performs on that carry top laner. G2 leaned on him quite heavily towards the end of the spring split, playing some of those split push threats and gonna have a lot of pressure to live up to some expectations today. Gragas locked in for 957, one of the picks that dismantled G2 during the group stages. Great barrels allow WE to pick up a win.
And now again, question is Talia, LeBlanc, like as the standard blind picks. Lucian is one he used, of course, against Faker.
I don't think you blind pick Lucian here, though. That would be pretty scary.
I want to see Cassiopeia now for PerkZ.
And I mean, this composition as a whole does work very well because you have the Ivern to kind of buff up your multiple AD carries. You have some engage with the Gragas. It seems pretty strong, but I do think that there are counter picks available.
I think Cassiopeia, this is another one actually that I've been talked about by some of the mid laners. Viktor, simply because, again, your early trading with Q is so effective. I personally like Cassiopeia more against Lucian, also because you're more active and you have a composition that wants to fight early on.
And Cassiopeia does give you a bit of some late game insurance there too, because it is such a strong hyper carry in the late game, but it's going to be Viktor.
All right, safe choice from PerkZ. Not exactly the champion you get super fed on and just carry the game.
And not exactly the champion select maybe we were anticipating for game one. You know, Ivern first pick, the bans, super support focused by G2. Sending a very big signal saying, ban at 957, you're not going to get those picks.
Oh, again, there's so many new picks here from G2 coming into this game. We talked about they had like multiple days to prepare. Quite a few options, you know, for this mid lane pick in the end for PerkZ. He went with the Viktor also to add more wave clear to the team and maybe a bit more late game fighting. WE, a lot of physical damage because it's 280 carries that we're looking at to deal that damage.
Yeah, and it is very physical damage heavy, but we also have to remember this is not like, you know, Ivern, Lulu, Karma. There's not a massive amount of shielding from this composition, and there is, in my opinion, enough damage even in the late game for G2 to take out these carries.
Yep.
I also think that with the potential amount of dive between Rumble and Olaf, paired then with Taric, and you have the Ashe and the Viktor in the backline, even in late game team fights, if you're close, I do think that you can potentially take those fights.
Definitely so. I think actually G2 will have a lot of ways to kind of play out both mid and the late game, as you highlighted. Yeah. Problem is, again, bot lane 2v2 with a Caitlyn on Mystic, the man with the highest CS difference at MSI. You can't lose that lane and lose that early tower, because then everything falls apart.
Can't lose the lane, can't lose the early game. G2 have been particularly ineffective at avoiding that.
That's why people predict WE to win.
This is also, I have to point out, Xiye taking the Ignite is pretty ballsy here. Not going to go heal, not going to go, you know, barrier or anything like that. That's very risky against Olaf and Viktor early on.
Go ham or go home, Azael. That's the message Xiye is sending. It's Team WE taking on G2 eSports here from the Jeunesse Arena in Rio de Janeiro. Semi-final number 2. The Viktor advances to the title match tomorrow.
And I'm actually like hilariously excited for this match now. I think that this draft for G2 is actually very promising. I think it plays to some of their strengths, and I think that, you know, having Trick up against Condi on the Ivern, it's less of a mismatch.
They did this against Faker, game 1 of the tournament here, sorry, game 1 of the group stages. Find Condi and get his flash.
All right, so a little bit of an advantage to G2. Despite getting a kill the last time that play happened, it didn't allow them to win the game. This time round, just a little bit of early pressure onto Condi. Maybe make him think twice about some of those early invades. I want to look at how Condi paths on this Ivern, because Ivern pathing has been a topic of discussion throughout the course of the last 2 weeks of gameplay here.
Sure, definitely true. A lot of it also depends on how the enemy team wants to play against Ivern. Like, are they looking to steal away a camp early on and force him to start on the wrong side? Right now, G2 are hovering around the river, but after forcing the flash, have not done anything else. On your screen, though, that's Ben's Malzahar. 2 games against G2 eSports. 1, 2, and 22 assists. He was everywhere.
It has been such a strong pick for him, despite it not really being considered one of the strongest meta picks right now. He makes it work, and he's playing, to his own strengths. And this is actually pretty interesting. Are they just going to straight up start with a red buff on Caitlyn in the bot lane? This is actually crazy.
Definitely seems so. When you have Malzahar, you can use the Void Links.
Oh my god.
To take these early ones. Remember when I said that WE really wants to win the bot lane 2v2?
I think it's safe to say.
That's why they can start with the red buff. And your jungler now, Condi, is going to take Tric's red buff. Such a smart start from WE.
I actually can't even remember the last time if I've ever seen anything like this. Having that start, the early level 2 as well. Mithy has got to be careful. He's going to take so much damage.
Yeah, he's going to throw down the Dazzle. Zven gets a decent volley trade onto Mystic, but Mithy is burned through, down to 30% HP and already starting those cookies.
Yeah, Mystic already level 2 because, of course, he picked up that buff and then entered the lane. Very easy for him to hit that next level. G2 needs to do the same, but it's hard right now.
And one of the things, Mystic getting tagged there, but one of the things people often underestimate about the red buff is actually the HP regen that you do get from it, because you do get so much. It's not just about the added true damage and that little slow.
All right, Trick around the mid lane. Remember, guys, Viktor's early laning is very strong. He's already dealing some damage to Lucian. Trick on the game.
Forced onto Xiye, he's going to dash away. The undertow will not find a target. Trick takes a tower shot. Condi comes in for support, but that's flash and ignite down on Xiye.
And that's going to give heavy lane advantage over to PerkZ, especially the fact that the ignite was then used on Trick there. No way for Condi to follow up because he has no flash, and you should see lane domination go over to PerkZ.
Yeah, definitely going to help PerkZ out. He established some sort of command over laning phase throughout the majority of the group stages. But playing into Xiye's Lucian is going to be a very different beast. Remember, Xiye got those solo kills onto SKT, got some help from Condi last week.
Got a lot of help.
It was beautiful to behold.
It was fantastic to watch when he actually got hit. Trick is looking for another gank. Bot lane now.
There's no ward on this, and they could catch... Oh, Mithy messed up the flash!
He did indeed. The exhaust is slowing down Mystic. Summoner heal comes down. Mithy's running for his life. Trick's not going to be able to chase Mystic through the flash. Summoner teleport from 957. Completes. Body slam onto Trick. He can't get away from the tower. That's a trap. First blood to Mystic.
Oh, and Mithy maybe showing some inexperience on this Taric pick. Completely messes it up. That should have been a free first blood for G2. He fails, and it goes over to WE and the Caitlyn.
Last time these two teams played each other, 957 was so quick on that teleport bot lane when G2 tried to set up a play, and it happened here again. Early on, this is actually a very good gank, but as you highlighted, Azael, Mithy messes it up here. Stun is already used, then he flashes in. Trick obviously will try and go for at least a flash, but now you can't get out, and these traps are in the way as well. Great setup from 957 and the rest of WE.
Yeah, but definitely a shame there for G2, because despite, the capitalization from 957, that should have been a good play from G2. It should have worked out for them, but now everything has fallen right where WE wants it.
Yeah, early red buff to Mystic, early kill to Mystic, and the kill that was secured was onto Trick. The man that if you wanted to tilt anyone, that was the guy you want to start on.
And it's a BF sword versus a cult for the buys in the bot lane. Like, that is disgusting. And that essentially means that Zven and Mithy now have lost all lane priority. The wave did bounce. It is eventually going to push out towards Mystic and Ben, where they could then freeze and really open up a huge advantage down the top.
Yeah, we would already see WE win the bot lane, also with the red buff start. Now they can just win it even harder and really put pressure on tower, because that's the key thing for WE. Getting early towers down always enables Ben to roam on Malzahar, and it enables Condi to then team up with Ben and invade the enemy jungle and just apply so much map pressure. This bot lane tower is so often their focus when we look at this MSI group stage, and they're looking for it again.
All right, take a look at the wave. As it stands, G2's pushing towards Mystic and Ben. They're not hard shoving. We're going to jump to the mid lane. Both junglers hanging around. Xiye, no flash available, remember. Trick just showing his presence, not really wanting to pick a fight into a minion wave with PerkZ. And as it stands, just alleviating some pressure.
Yeah, and now that we have seen the first two ganks from Trick, Olaf as a jungler is the opposite of Ivern. Ivern is fantastic late game. He wants to go late game. Olaf is all about the early game. That's why Trick is so active on the map, and he's kind of gambling with losing experience to try and get a kill in a lane. When your support then fails, and you actually don't get a kill and you fall behind, it just feels so bad for the Olaf, and it's going to hurt Trick a lot.
It really is, but Trick has done a good job, I feel like, with his pathing. I mean, forcing both summoners mid, forcing all the summoners on the AD carry bottom, and, you know, unfortunately for him, it's kind of out of his control this time around.
Yeah, the misplay did not allow G2 to secure first blood. They're still down 500 gold, down 10 CS in the bottom lane, but up around 5 or 6 CS, and Expect has got the push onto 957. Who is now returning to the top lane.
So Condi right now, because of mid lane control, bot lane control, he can invade the jungle like we always see him do in the LPL. Blue buff spawns, he picks it up, hands over blue to Xiye, and now PerkZ is suddenly sitting without a blue buff in the mid lane, and small advantages suddenly snowball into multiple lanes at the same time and makes it harder for G2 to play the early game.
Good hawk shot there from Zven, gonna reveal Condi. Been picking up the Raptor camp as well as his red, and Xiye with blue. Says to PerkZ, get cold. He's chunks him down 50%. He's got the Bilgewater Cutlass already picked up into the Double Doran's rings of PerkZ.
We are going to have to see Xiye playing very carefully, though, now that PerkZ is level 6. He does have double buffs, which is going to help that out. But the amount of burst that Viktor can put down at 6, like, this is not an early Hex Drinker or something on Xiye. He's building aggressively. He has aggressive summoners, and that's something that they could look to capitalize on.
Trick snuck his way into the bottom lane. No ward. Flash is not available for Mystic.
All right, looks like Ben and Mystic stepped a little too far forward. Dazzle this time finds the target. Mystic is going low, 100 HP, summon a heal. That's a kill for Trick. Ben gets tagged by the undertow, but there's no follow-up for the dive.
Very good to see Trick just go back to ganking. Yes, okay, you didn't get anything in the first gank, you didn't get anything in the second gank, but the third one now, due to no flash from Mystic and Mithy landing the stun.
Yeah, and that's the key. They have that gank system, and there's that even potential to keep coming back. As you get level 6 on Zven, which he now is, you can set up those ganks even more easily.
And he needs to keep getting killed because he's a level down. Expect looking for something top lane, but Xiye is getting his second red buff. He already had a blue buff. He's going to get another blue buff, by the way, from Condi. That is feeding this Lucian.
Yeah, they actually got 4 buffed on this rotation, so getting this kill was very big, and here is the setup. They're posturing aggressively because they have that advantage, and the flash was actually up there.
It just came up, I think, at the very end.
Yeah, it looked like it was actually up before the stun hit, and he could have flashed that.
Ben, not the first time he's played overly forward in lane on this Malzahar. Actually happened a few weeks ago. Xiye, by the way, picks up another blue buff. So
4th buff of this rotation.
In a row. It's ridiculous for Xiye, but he's still even on CS with PerkZ. Gonna throw in a relentless pursuit potentially, actually decides against it. And looking at the minimap, there's a lot of support from both teams.
Yeah, and Ben, he always loves to get one of these roams off with his level 6 on Malzahar. He has flash available, so look for him to try to make a play, whether it's mid.
Oh, every single shot is connecting. Defensive flash away from PerkZ. We cut to the top lane. Trick connects. Oh, misses the undertow thanks to a flash. But as it stands, that's a play on both sides of the map.
And this is why it's so good for WE with the double buff Lucian, because again, you can start bullying this mid lane. A lot of damage on tower now as well.
The bot lane's coming up. They're actually just going to knock this turret down. 4-man mid. Nice rotation here from WE.
Really well played. WE, they're going to secure tower first blood. Throws up the LPL logo. And just to give you guys an update, 8 buffs have spawned in this game. G2 have secured 1 of them. So exceptional early game from Condi on this Ivern. It has allowed some kills, 1,500 gold lead, and obviously the tower in the mid lane.
Yeah, we can't blame PerkZ for that one. When the enemy AD carry gets double buff twice in your lane, and then the enemy jungler shows up, there's really nothing you can do. It's just really well played by WE. Condi and Xiye together. Trick, while he's down in experience, needs to keep trying to gank. It's the only way back in the game for him.
And I'm actually pretty impressed by Condi and his jungle control. Obviously, Trick has been prioritizing ganking, but I mean, Condi's up 2 levels, so this looks like a very practiced Ivern player. When you compare it to the Iverns we saw coming out in the series yesterday, he looks on another level.
Yeah, it's worth highlighting that Condi did not play Ivern during the regular season in the LPL, but it was a big pick in China specifically. He played it once here at this tournament, and I've obviously been practicing a bit more for this specific game here against G2, because they know Ivern is also a big pick for Trick.
Yeah, working out exceptionally well for Team WE. They've got all of the advantages, and, you know, all of the, group stage play was talk around Xiye and Mystic, but Condi going a little bit quiet, a little bit under the radar because of how good Casa and Peanut were and how bad Trick was. You kind of forget to talk about Condi, who's still been an exceptional performer all tournament long.
And they're even setting up vision to try to take this next blue buff. Already, getting the wards down around there, clearing out some of the jungle plants, and there's potential for them to just continue rolling this.
And his bot lane tower here should just always be under pressure because PerkZ will get pushed to his tier 2 tower mid, so Xiye can always roam first, just walk into the jungle, not spotted by any wards, and then the bot lane from G2 needs to play passive. And this should just mean WE can kind of snowball towards these outer turrets, bottom side, and then top side after.
That said, I mean, Trick is moving down. If the Caitlyn does stick around here, if Mystic stays around, you have the Ashe arrow and the follow-up from that Taric stun.
But just remember, Lucian will always be there first. So when you fight, it might start 3v3, it becomes 4v3 very quickly.
Both teleports available. 957 was quicker on the trigger earlier. And Expect has been trading with him, but not really picking up a big advantage. Now, this looks like every G2 game that I've seen at MSI 2017, exception of one Flash Rules game. Falling behind early, behind in gold, but they do have a more well-rounded composition as we head into this mid-game where they can make plays.
Yeah, and I think this early game has been less focused around G2 making a ton of mistakes and more focused around WE just outplaying them through the mid lane.
And I think really exceptional early game planning. From the first red buff going over to the Caitlyn, while the red buff from G2 is being stolen, to the multiple double buffs being given over. All this speaks of planning and preparation, as well as fantastic execution from WE.
It's just so interesting with Condi as a player, because like he came in as like a flashy jungler, sick mechanics, made the big plays a few years ago in the LPL, and then he would always steal the Barons, the way he was called, the son of Baron. But then this split now, he's become like a much smarter player, and he's like winning a lot through just very good pathing and understanding where the enemy jungle is and where he can steal something.
And I think becoming that complete player is how you really secure your legacy. People talk about, Faker when he moved over to playing Karma and Lulu mid and things like that. That really kind of secured him as this all-around player, and Condi's attempting to do that here for his team.
All right, Son of Baron, that's what Condi's called in the LPL. Can it be Son of Clouddrake? Goes in, where's the smite? Secured by G2.
957's here.
957's already arrived to the party, but G2 are coming in. That's a good ultimate from Mithy, slowing down the kills. The good barrel from 957. They've caught out Mystic. Equalizer comes out from Expect in the mid lane. He's going solo with Xiye. Ben has died in the river. PerkZ takes him out with the laser. 3 for 1 to G2.
Such a good fight here for G2. The Taric ultimate, so clutch coming in from Mithy, saving Zven, allowing them the time to survive for PerkZ to get in there and clean up the fight.
Yeah, that looks so scary at first with the Gragas coming in so early to join the fight, but you're right, Azael. Mithy redeeming himself after that first mistake.
And that is the power of the Taric. If you cannot burst someone down before that ultimate comes crashing in, you get so much free time to turn around the fight. And Condi wants to go for the steal. It actually wasn't that great of a smite here from Trick, but they are able to secure it and the fight breaks out.
Yeah, Trick gets it here. So 957 comes in. G2 are completely split up at this point, and it looks really bad for Zven, but the ulti from Mithy saves him, and now Olaf is getting onto Mystic. Takes him down, and PerkZ at this point are able to also take out Ben.
Yeah, Ben even had to expend his ultimate with no one assisting the damage onto PerkZ just to stop him from entering the fight. So it was trying to mitigate the disaster that was occurring. But these kills, especially the one going over to PerkZ, is going to be huge.
And just like that, G2 even at the gold, they get the first dragon of the game, and they get themselves 3 kills onto the board. I think if I saw that correctly, Xiye just stole yet another buff from G2. That red buff taken away from them at some point. Maybe G2 will get their hands on that blue Sentinel or the red Brambleback, but it doesn't feel like it's going to be for a long time to come.
Oh, Lucian got his play the Rune King now. Obviously, next one is...
Man, Mystic gets red
Mystic gets one as well. Like Condi, he's just gifting buffs to both his carries at this point.
It's like Santa, the Santa of the jungle, going around.
Santa, son of Baron, never mind.
Right.
Santa of the jungle, I like that one.
Delivering sweeties to his teammates. Condi's got double buffs, Xiye's got double buffs, everyone's got double buffs for Team WE, but they've set their sights on the outer turret bottom.
There's no teleport from 957 now. Expect has his TP. He walked down to that dragon fight before, and Expect is moving back in lane to get out of that Gragas ulti, so he can potentially join a fight.
Yeah, that is why you see WE backing off here. They have to show respect that if 957 cannot interrupt that teleport, they cannot safely go for that dive.
And of course, that means no dive happens, no additional fights or combat around the tower. Condi's just going to go straight in with Daisy. With the range from Mystic, Ashe arrow tags him down. Dazzle, 90 caliber nets, not enough range. She has joined the fight. He's roamed first. Trick, Cosmic Radiance, buys a few seconds. He's running for his life.
Expect he's behind, coming for the flank.
Almost gets taken out. The left Ray. PerkZ gets a kill. Now the exhaust onto Xiye. Expects gets
They're gonna get more.
Xiye's down. Triple kills on PerkZ and G2.
We just talked about that teleport from Expect. Yes, he needed a bit of time before he could join, but he joined and he took down WE together with his Viktor from the mid lane.
And that deep ward from the G2 bot lane, so critical there, giving the way in for Expect. WE thought they would be safe going for the siege and not the dive, but G2 proves them wrong.
And we have to criticize the aggressive play. When we look at that TP, it's one of the most common things for professional teams to communicate. Timings on teleport. And yet, WE felt confident to play aggressive on the bottom side.
Even felt like WE knew about that teleport from the initial setup, not going for the dive.
100%.
Unfortunately, it bites him in the back. So G2 now turn it around. They're up 1,500 gold. 4-0-2 on PerkZ. Wave clear machine, late game team fight power, and one of the primary carries for G2 eSports.
And I mean, the biggest thing here about the kills going over to PerkZ is these are two AD carries. Neither of them have any magic resist yet. Viktor can one combo AD carries pretty reliably when you do get ahead, and that's a frightening prospect for both the Lucian and this Caitlyn.
Especially if you plug in a Lich Bane later on and go for a bit of extra burst damage coming from him. WE though will get his bot out. It's what they've been working on for basically 17 minutes, from getting red buff level 1 over to Mystic. They've been trying to pressure that bot side, but they've lost a lot of kills in the process.
And you've got to say, G2 has really mitigated the mistake in bot lane, giving over that first blood to the Caitlyn very well. And they're actually very close here as far as farm and gold on these AD carries when you take everything into consideration.
Trick had to use his ulti here defensively to get out. Let's see the replay. This is just a greedy play from WE without teleport. You can see the Gragas on your minimap are trying to stop Expect, but he can't follow on the tower. And as soon as the TP comes in, then it doesn't matter that the Olaf dies.
It was actually so smart from Expect too. He didn't even just go to the bush. He walked so far back so that even when Gragas checks, he could not interrupt it. And getting that TP off was critical to G2 and their chances in this game. So great play from Expect.
Exceptionally well played. G2's communication and team fight there allows them to stay close. And of course, Mithy, this Taric pick for the second time. A big skirmish breaks out in the early game, and that ultimate, it completely thwarts everything WE's putting together. Trick survived a few seconds longer, needed the ultimate from Xiye, and that meant it allowed PerkZ and Expect to collapse on him.
Yeah, and it was so critical that Trick was able to survive from that ultimate. He was down to between 5 and 10% HP when the ultimate did land, but keeping him alive there as a threat adds such another dimension to the fight.
And talking about dimensions to the fight, yes, some dimension to G2. I want to remind everybody about those gold drops the analyst desk was talking about. G2 all throughout the group stages were falling behind early, were struggling, had to play for the late game, needed their opponents to bounce back.
Try and get a fight here, Trevor, before we look at those graphs, because Drake has been started. Grabs up now. You can see how far this team will fall behind. Only one good game.
TP in for 957. Expect has walked down for the fight, though.
All right, Expect's around. 957 completes the TP. He's got no real support. Glass Cone sends Trick and Mithy, and there's no damage really to chase him down. Zven playing that one safe. He's backed away.
Teleport did grant river control to WE. You can see how now they put up these traps from Mystics near the entrance, and that forces G2 to walk back all the way to mid lane. And they're now a bit behind on the play. WE, though, no teleport.
Yeah, the lanes are also going to be pushing towards them. 957 has gone bot to shove in there. Mid lane was pushing, so G2 is going to try to pressure this mid lane turret and make WE react to them.
Yeah, it's actually really good for G2 now if they just don't fight. If they can get a full reset and WE has to go back with Gragas with no teleport, then suddenly Expect will have the advantage. 957 hoping for something. PerkZ getting caught!
PerkZ is already dead. That's a flash over the wall. Cosmic Radiance not going to be in range yet. Comes down finally from Mithy, buying some time. Trick is running rampage. Condi flashes to safety. Mystic gets another on the board. Xiye dashes forward in the relentless pursuit. Here comes 957. He gets a kill onto Expect. They knock Zven forward into the lane, but that allows him to escape 3 easy kills for 1.
Yeah, and just as we said, G2 did not want to fight. And of course, WE were looking for the engage, knowing they just used that teleport. They're going straight towards Baron.
Yeah, they're going to try to force this Baron out. 957 on the side here. Can zone Zven and Mithy out. They are aware of this. We'll see if they pull the trigger.
15 seconds on Expect with TP available. Daisy and the Gragas will try here near the Baron. Zven needs to get around the corner though.
All right, ashe is available for Zven. He needs to find a priority target. Daisy's not the tanking up Baron just yet.
Looking gone.
Turns his attention. Ben is now coming in. Expect will finish the teleporter. It's going to be too late. Condi and Team WE secure the first Baron of the game.
And this is what I love about WE, how aggressive they are at forcing fights. It's Ben with the Malzahar. Again, WE, they know we need to fight now or we're gonna lose out on the map. So because G2 are walking in this path right here, without the river control we talked about earlier, well, Ben has a chance now to engage.
Yeah, you've got to say, though, some miscommunication here. Trick running out of the Taric ultimate. Had he actually been inside that, I think they kill off Condi. I think they have a chance to perhaps turn around the fight as the rest of the team comes in. So definitely some mistakes being made there. And WE now back in firm control of this game.
Yeah, consolation prize of the Cloud Drake, and Trick steps on that Caitlyn trap earlier in that bottom lane skirmish. Stepped out of the Cosmic Radiance from Mithy. He's 2-3-3 on Olaf. Gonna start finding the time where it's gonna be difficult to kill more and more people. Condi's already got 2 items under his belt, and it's gonna be tough to stick to that back line with the amount of damage that Xiye and Mystic can be put down. He's got no armor yet either.
And that's why it's so much about PerkZ on this Viktor, who has most of their gold, who has the Luden's Echo, to try to burst down these AD carries. But if he gets caught out, they stand very little chance in the fight.
Yeah, definitely glad, Trevor, you just highlighted the Spirit Visage right now. I really think that's a wrong item to have if you're Trick. You're not afraid of Ivern. Malzahar is not going to ulti you. And Gragas, again, is trying to kill your carries. You're just dealing with Xiye and Mystic. That is definitely a miss-buy. I think his in-game performance we should not criticize. It's been better than what we've seen in the past week. But the item choice is wrong.
Yeah, questionable item choice. Look at the drop down in the top. 14 out of 17 buffs secured by Team WE. G2 may as well have not had buffs this game. Exceptionally well played, and that's what's allowed WE this very large advantage. Okay, they've got Baron. We know Lucian can play on a side lane. 957 will have teleport shortly, so how do WE use this Baron in their team comp for the next few minutes?
And I think they can just straight up start sieging. I mean, you have Caitlyn, you have Ivern. You can walk forward, start chipping down these turrets, but they're controlling the blue side jungle of G2, and they're going to move back and forth between lanes, try to pressure both the turrets.
WE this tournament, whenever they had an advantage,
Ashe coming in.
on Xiye.
It's on to Xiye. The equalizer cuts off the retreat path. Cosmic Radiance buys some time, and PerkZ is knocked to safety. The Radiance goes down. That's 2 kills for G2. Mithy's the only victim so far until Expect drops thereafter. A flash forward for Mystic. He's looking for Trick and Zven, but they're able to escape. Daisy gets eaten alive as G2 back away. 2 for 2.
It is 2 for 2. WE do get the turret. At least G2 has slowed down that Baron push, but the key thing is you took down Xiye, but it took so long that Mystic is free firing this entire time, and the Caitlyn was untouched.
We have to see again why G2 could not burst down the Lucian faster. Not even sure Zven came in position to really deal damage, seeing as he was completely full HP after the fight.
And PerkZ, PerkZ was out on the left side. He had to flash forward to even get in range. So, when that blocking came down, the redemption came down, and the shielding, he was able to retreat and get distance away.
All right, WE, they've taken 5 towers already. The last outer turret remaining. Trick is looking for Mystics, finds a Yordle snap trap, and unfortunately will be unable to catch Mystic. He used that 90 caliber net very effectively. 5,000 gold lead at 25 minutes, and here's the replay.
Arrow comes in, so yeah, right now it's Trick, and then it's Expect going for the Lucian. And as you highlighted, Azael here, Zven can't get in, PerkZ can't really get in to the Lucian at least. He will take down Ben. Zven has gotten just a few autos off in the entire fight, and that's the price you pay when you fight a long-range Ashe ulti to start the fight. 2 for 2 though against the Baron Block team. It's not the worst in the world.
No, it is something, but you definitely are worried about the fact that your jungler has almost no armor at this point. He's losing control of the jungle. The gold lead is starting to expand, and they're starting to choke G2 out of the game a little bit.
Yeah, this next Dragon's going to be coming up. It is another Cloud Drake. We've been very lucky with them thus far.
They're like clouds.
Despite having 2 of them to their name, they're going to need that speed boost to swap between lanes. Taking a look at the items really quickly. 2, 3 items being completed. Hourglass for Expect, no armor yet for Trick, as we mentioned, and 3 items for Mystic. He's got that rapid fire cannon and another red buff Azael.
Yeah, and I mean, the fact that he's a full item up over Zven is massive at this point in the game. He's an entire rapid fire cannon above his opponent, and this 3 item spike for Caitlyn is really where she can start to take over.
It's all about just staying alive now if your WE's carries. Again, shielding-wise, it's just Ivern. But then you have, of course, zoning of a Malzahar ulti, Gragas ulti, trying to protect these guys. G2 are trying to just rush that backline every time, but to keep highlighting, Trick can't really stay alive, and PerkZ gonna engage.
PerkZ gets jumped on. Mithy's ultimate won't land in time to save him, but they've got the kill into Xiye. Expects jumps onto the back line. Mystic and Xiye are down. There's no damage for Team WE. They're retreating. Mithy's in a duel with Daisy as 957 is looking down. Trick and expect. Xiye's trying to get out, and he's already down. In fact, 957's re-engaged with a body slam. There's a little bit of support for G2. Here comes Zven. Still late to the party. Trick gets bent, and G2 survive.
And now it's about how much can G2 get. Zven was actually pushing up the mini wave, so they're going to at least get one turret. But can they get a couple? Can they close the gold lead here?
Xiye dashed forward in that fight. He saw PerkZ in the eyes. He wanted to get that kill so badly. He actually ended up under tower and got bursted down instantly. Didn't even get to use his flash. And then G2 could suddenly turn around. That's so important to highlight. When 180 carry is gone, then WE are just sitting with one damage dealer. And it's much easier for G2 to fight. Look at this here. Xiye dashes in, arrow in the face, and now everything is on him. And he's gone. That means Trick can now chase Mystic down.
Yeah, and as soon as you take down that second threat, no damage left in the team, and exceptionally close to getting that Taric ultimate off onto PerkZ. He actually used his W first. Had he just self-ulted and stood on PerkZ, it may have actually landed. So there's a few things here, from Mithy that are showing me he's not fully comfortable on the champion. Maybe he doesn't have full mastery over this Taric just yet.
Not just yet, but the few plays that have landed.
I can almost guarantee you he's not been practicing a lot of Taric lately. This was more of a, hey, this might actually be really good here. We should pick it.
And it's one of those things, right? Like you think you have to leash before you can actually ult, but you can just drop the ult on your own head and stand on your allies. And saving that one global perhaps would have saved PerkZ's life and turned that into an even bigger play. But it is nitpicky, and perhaps it wouldn't have come anyway.
Well, it's almost 30 minutes into the game. G2, every time they look like they're about to be strangled out, they find a lifeline. Set up the Ashe arrow, connects onto Xiye. He's going to use the QSS, I believe. Or it was Mikhail's. Now Mithy's going to take a lot of damage from the culling. Redemption's already used. Trick's going forward. Look at that speed! Cosmic Radiance allows him to take down Ben. G2 taking a lot of damage, but they haven't got the carries from WE. Xiye uses the relentless pursuit forward. Expect is the target. He goes down. The tank for WE is killed as 957 gets shut down in the river. Mystic and Xiye, they double up.
Over the wall.
The shield. Dazzle doesn't find a target. Xiye goes in, gets Zven, killed by a siphon power. Mystic with a red buff though, gets revenge onto Trick. That red buff is doing work. There's a flash available. Mystic can flash forward if he wants to. Mithy's gonna flash for flash. Gravity field comes down. Siphon field. Look at the damage down. PerkZ looking for a death ray. Now PerkZ is chasing him back.
Oh, PerkZ has used the death ray to try and get condi, so he didn't have it available after that stun from Mithy.
A number of mistakes in that fight from G2. I mean, Zven actually stepped on a trap in the midst of that final fight, letting him to die, and PerkZ expending his ultimate on a solo Gragas, who has quite a bit of MR here. Not really the correct choice, you have to say, on this double AD carry team.
Mistakes, outplays. At this point, it doesn't even matter because the fights are just so back and forth. It's so fun to watch, honestly. Engage comes on early. Trick is not all-in yet, but then he sees an opening after 957 uses ulti.
Yeah, and I mean, the expended ultimate on the Gragas not really getting a lot done, but it's still a good fight from G2. Their backline, though, pretty separate from the tanks here, allowing Xiye and Mystic to move forward, take down, expect, and then if you track this skirmish over the wall, it's actually a trap that Zven does step on here, allowing the headshot to come in, allowing them to go over the wall. He steps on that trap, gets taken out.
Yeah, Xiye also dashing in for the kill, and Mystic plays it so well. You highlight the trap, and Mystic then after able to kind of chase down and get a kill more. 2,000 gold lead at this point doesn't really matter a whole lot, but one fight, where you get an ace and then suddenly you have an inhib and you might win the game.
While Baron is open and available, it's 28 kills in 30 minutes. It feels like G2 and Team WE are subscribing a little bit to the Marines style of mid-game, which is extremely entertaining. But now it means whoever makes a mistake in those fights is going to be punished hard. There is armor on Trick as well, Frozen Heart. That is going to be so valuable against Xiye and Mystic.
Yeah, and I actually really like that bind. They're going to straight start up the Baron. 957 needs the TP now. This Baron's going down so fast. Here it comes.
957's out on the flank. Ben's passive needs to get popped before any CC can land. Mithy takes a lot of damage from the culling. There's Ben's passive. It was Olaf's going to eat the arrow alive. Cosmic Radiance buys some time as G2 decide to retreat. Mystic and Xiye trying to chase them down.
And WE can just start up the Baron now because that is the Taric ultimate down. That is a lot of ultimates down for G2, and they're going for it.
It gets knocked up into the air. Chaos Storm is available for PerkZ. Redemption's going to do a lot of healing, but there's no equalizer for Expect. He's sitting on the front line with Hourglass available. Baron's going low. Redemption's coming down, but look at the silence onto G2. Chaos Storm takes down Ben. Baron secured by Condi, but 957 forced to flash over the wall. Mystic is slowed, and his damage is reduced by the exhaust. Now Condi's the target. WE get taken down onto the Baron.
Well, they get the Baron. That's at least very important for them, but they couldn't actually fight after. Both teams were kind of like, we can't really sit in the Baron pit and then take a fight, so either you go for Baron and then you risk dying, or you just run away. G2 ran away, WE all in for Baron.
And this was such a well-played fight by PerkZ, catching multiple members in that ultimate, really swinging the tide of the fight. Unfortunately for G2, the waves are not in their control, but back to the fight here. Track PerkZ, he's the vet member, takes down Ben, pushes Xiye immediately out of the fight, allowing his team to flood in and really take them down. Excellent from PerkZ.
Nothing Mystic can do without his flash either after the fight here. PerkZ will get a top tower. I think earlier in the fight when the arrow came down from Zven, Ben had a signal Mikhail's play on himself where he actually cast it on himself. He got hit by arrow and then he used it to get out of it. So he didn't die before that, just a small little thing.
Once again, we see the damage drop. Once again, we see PerkZ off the charts. Those death rates are doing so much work.
I mean, he did over 5,000 damage in that team fight. Xiye did 57. He did about 100 times as much damage there. You know, Xiye got taken out so fast from that ultimate.
Yeah, and now, early on, we didn't see, you know, Hexdrinker getting rushed. It was highlighted, didn't get a second item, third item, fourth item. Like, we play against Rumble and Viktor. At this point right now, like, the amount of magic damage on G2 is pretty damn insane.
I find it shocking either that neither of these guys, especially Lucian, who's a shorter range AD carry who has to be kind of mixing it up, you know, getting up forward in these fights, has not picked up any MR. Because with the Lich Bane now, the Void Staff, the Luke, all these items coming in for PerkZ, he can surely one-round either of these AD carries if he gets them in position.
And that's what PerkZ has done. What feels like 17 times this game. His team has secured 19 kills. PerkZ involved in 17 of them. Look at the setup from Team WE. They've got that Brushmaker forward, but Expect wants to flank.
Yeah, and if they move too far forward, you're going to see the Equalizer and the Ashe Arrow come out, and we can see them win these fights.
Double Mikhails from WE here to try and stop someone from dying if they get engaged on. Mithy has flash as well for a follow-up stun.
All right, Culling is just going to zone G2 away. G2 have not pulled the trigger yet. Mystic. Oh, dancing on a knife's edge, but WE get the tower. Chaos Storm is wasted.
Mystic actually stepped forward because the trigger seed, sorry, the snare hit from Ivern. And suddenly he was in the front line. That's why PerkZ dropped down his ulti. Mystic, though, smartly just stepped away after the tower had already gone down. And it feels like it's PerkZ versus Mystic at the moment. The fed Caitlyn on one side getting protected, and the extremely fed Viktor on the other side looking for that one shot.
Oh, this is a very exciting twist of events here. Team WE and G2 basically even at 35 minutes. The team that was heralded as the Elder Dragon team from the LPL, and G2, who only have really won games in the late game by other teams making mistakes this tournament. It's going to be very exciting to see who can now outplay and maneuver on the map.
Yeah, and I mean, it's all going to come down to play at this point. The gold leads are essentially irrelevant. Both teams have powerful compositions. They have their win conditions. And you know, one thing I do like pointing out here from Zven is the fact they got the Exchanger's Culling. I think that is such an effective buy against this team, you know, with not only the Redemption, but double AD carries, having lifesteal on themselves. You have the Gragas passive. There's a lot of value to be taken from that, and so many players do neglect it.
Zven's going to get in range to get some autos down because it's been the PerkZ show in most of these team fights. Of course, the moment he does, that'll be exceptionally valuable. All right, Baron is a little while away. Taking a look at some of the other key items, of course, multiple redemptions on both sides. Guardian Angel picked up by 957, who's been... He's looked for flanks, but he's been not as effective at disrupting because Olaf just runs straight through him every single time.
It's certainly true, but having that Xiye, the extra life to give, may allow him the confidence to go deep for a play to try to knock someone like PerkZ in, because if they take out PerkZ, the fight will fall apart.
Xiye flashed that arrow despite the guy right next to him sitting with the Mikhails.
What does that mean, Deficio?
No trust, I guess.
Or, I mean, just not used to playing with the item, right? A lot of this stuff comes down to instinct. It comes down to reaction. You're not thinking through the play. And, you know, communication, sometimes it can be lost there.
It'll be very important if G2 can find him again, right? That's the key. Is a couple of minutes when that window is open. Xiye is working towards his Infinity Edge. And Ardent Sensor picked up by Condi. 2 targets to buff up. I mean, we just continue to scale to this late game. And is this where you start to worry about the single damage source? Not really, because there's not a traditional tank on G2. It feels like it's less impactful than in other games where you see just AD as your primary source.
Yeah, so much about these fights are going to be based on like G2's start. Like if they get onto one of the carries and force this guy out of the fight, kill him, get him low enough so he can't continue to hit anyone, well then the one damage source will be an issue. But if you have one of these fights where Trick dives in too far, no one can follow from G2, and Trick goes down early, and the double AD carry is still alive, well then suddenly WE here can win these fights. So it's like hard engage versus kite in many ways.
Take a look at WE clearing out Vision and the Baron. The first game that they lost to SKT, WE were up, they had a lead. But a Baron steal, so a ward that was not spotted in the pit was their downfall. So I'm looking at Vision at the moment. It feels like a lot more wards from WE. They've had a little more time on G2's side of the map, so G2 have to contest that as we get close to this Baron score.
I mean, someone else who has had a lot of time has been Zven. He was massively behind in the early game. Now, the only differential between these AD carries is the QSS, right? Well, and while that is an advantage, Zven is going to be putting out a significant amount of DPS in these fights, and this is a very powerful 3-threat team here from G2 with mixed damage, with a lot of safety, you know, from Mithy and this Taric ultimate, and I think they're getting to a very, very strong point in their composition.
They still would like more armor on Trick. He obviously got it very late. Also, his CDR boots, while they're good on Olaf, like Ninja tapping here against the double AD carry, is really, really good. But it will be a luxury item for him later if he sells the boots and gets the Ninja tappy.
Talking about those items, Knight's Vow picked up by Trick. Warden's Mail for Mithy as well. He's continuing to scale on the armor front too.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see, is Trick actually going to give this Knight's Vow over to PerkZ? That's who I actually would expect it on, and it is going to be over on the PerkZ because a lot of people think it should be an AD carry item, but it's just as powerful on these high DPS mid lane mages. Now, WE posturing around Baron, they have the trap line set up, could be a tough approach for G2.
Ashe arrows available for Zven.
They're on the Baron.
All ultimates are up, they need to get past those traps. 957's already used the ultimate. Trick is running in with the Ragnarok and the Ragnarol. Mystic is the target. The Radiance will buy a couple seconds of time, but G2 are turning their attention to 957. Xiye gets a full channel on the Culling. Mithy's forced to flash to safety. 957 re-engages. His GA gets popped, but Expect takes a gigantic chunk of health from that headshot. 957 goes down, but WE, they got the Baron.
They're going to go mid lane. They have the wave prep that was already pushed in by PerkZ. They're going to try to get something back here, but it's only the one kill for the Baron now. The turret will do something to help.
And here we just saw one of these fights where the hard engage from G2 did not get an early kill, but WE can't really re-engage properly. They just want to kite all the time. So when G2 stopped running at them, well then Ben was left alone. Sorry, 957 was left alone. Once he came back up, a good stun from PerkZ secured a kill for G2.
And getting that GA down is honestly very, very big here for G2 because they're not going to have to deal with that in the next fight. So while this was a good one for WE, if they can't crack the base, the golden means almost nothing.
And Xiye's damage at this point is really not that scary for G2 to deal with. There is no last whisper from him either. He finally listened to Azael and picked up a Hexdrinker 40 minutes into the game. And it's really just about Mystic's damage, because the Olaf and the Taric are not too scared of this Lucian.
Well, when Mystic gets some headshots down, Expect lost about 20% of his HP to a single headshot. It is terrifying. Elder Dragon is coming up. Okay, WE have got Baron buff, and the crowd here in Brazil are putting those Thunder Sticks together like we haven't heard before. What a treat to open this best of 5.
Yeah, it has been an incredibly exciting game, and with the Elder Dragon coming up, both teams having 2 dragons to their name, they both have a legitimate threat to go for this, and G2 is trying to force it with their cooldowns being faster, and no flash on Mystic.
He's also late to the party, gentlemen. Running through the jungle now. Elder Dragon's taking a very long time to go down. Only at 50% HP. Mystic's going to move forward. Here comes Dave.
This fight will be so important here.
All right, Trick versus Condi. Who's going to secure it and burst it? Ashe arrow goes down. Tags onto Mystic.
G2 gets it.
They get the damage buff. Mithy's already dead, though. He's managed to channel the ultimate. The Radiance buys a few seconds longer. Mystic and Xiye. That's a dash forward from Mystic and a dash away from Xiye. Elder to G2, a kill to WE, and now WE on the aggressive.
Yeah, they're trying to get an inhib at least with the 5 members alive. Mithy stepped on a trap, trying to stun Condi and make sure he couldn't smite it. But let's see if WE can actually get something in the base of G2.
It'll be a very difficult situation for G2. That wave clear from PerkZ mitigated thanks to Baron. Condi takes a couple extra shots. Undertows from Trick going wide. Not a huge amount of engage either on the side of G2. Spins arrows on cooldown.
But no ultis from G2. That's key. No ulti from Viktor. Nothing from Rumble. So G2 are not too scary at the moment outside of the Elder Drake. And that's what WE were pushing for. But now they realize.
Oh, 957 goes all the way in thanks to Ivern. He's down. He auto-attacked. He auto-attacked on the trigger tree.
He clicked the trigger seat. He goes in and G2 are on the chase. They're looking for Xiye. We'll see if they can catch him. Trick has to hit the axe.
The undertow connects onto Xiye. Trick puts the hammer down. Xiye survives thanks to QuickShot.
He got him.
He's unstoppable. Mystic is down. Xiye's running for his life. Ben buys a few seconds of time, but it does not matter. Expect joins the fight, throws down the equalizer, and that's looking for the kill onto Condi.
And G2 are going to be pushing down mid lane. They're going to have minions. There is a big wave top, but they're looking to perhaps end the game here with these long spawn timers.
Remember, Expect has teleport. He can also join if there is a ward of minions.
Xiye is cutting the wave.
He's just killing minions right now. He wants to stop G2 from ending the game. Massive wave top lane from WE, by the way, in the base of G2. They have 1 minion here with them.
They have to tank for the minion to keep the backdoor bonus off. That's what they're doing. They're looking to end. Xiye is trying to take it down.
Take a look at this. Condi's respawn. Brought Daisy to the fight as well. Chaos Storm and that's zoning in the way. G2 need to focus on Nexus, and they take down Team WE 1-0.
What a game 1 of this series. The crowd are completely nuts in here.
Everybody is on their feet in the crowd. That trigger seed,
Oh my God.
Condi, he flew all the way in.
957 goes down, as you highlighted, due to that trigger seed. And then against an Elder buff team. And so far into the game, G2 able to run it down and win the game.
I mean, WE had been unable to crack the base for so long. They felt like that was the time they had to do it with the Baron buff on them and the 5v4 advantage. They stepped just a little bit too far. G2 defended that turret so well.
Exceptional play from Team WE in the early game. G2, however, they did not buckle under the pressure. They won multiple fights in the mid game. I completely messed up. It's actually the root caller that allowed him to dash in.
People
all
know
the hype.
the Q.
Had to throw it in there. But I mean,
I said trigger
36 kills, 43 minutes. What was it? 4 Barons or 3 Barons? It felt like. It was chaos, but G2 were not that far behind. That is improvement, and maybe that means you have to reevaluate the strengths here.
And just what in the performance from PerkZ. I mean, you cannot overlook this. 12, 2, and 9 on the Viktor. I mean, this is the guy who had to set up, put the threat on these AD carries, zone them out of the fights, and get those kills, and he was able to do it every time they needed it.
Well, to break down that back and forth, let's send it over to the analyst desk with the root caller.
Woo! Thank you, QuickShot. We are in for a series, boys. How are we feeling?
Awesome. I mean, G2 did such a good job of punishing WE's mistakes. They made so many really, really good counter moves.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, back and forth throughout the entirety of the game, keeping the gold lead within a couple thousand either way at any given moment. And of course, if we look at it, we're going to just jump into gameplay right away because of how many kills went both ways. All the action revolving around the bot lane in that early game, looking for kills onto Mystic and onto Zven. Of course, WE got the better end of this trade.
At the very start of it, it looked like business as usual for Team WE. Apply pressure in the bottom lane, allow Mystic to get an advantage, and then turn around a 2 versus 3 gank. with the teleport that came into Victor.
Man, I mean, we always talk about, oh yeah, never gank a losing lane, but you just have to be cautious at least when ganking a losing lane. I mean, you're running into a Malzahar so good, you know, at dealing damage when people are charging you, plus accounting for the teleport. Like, there's so many things that were wrong with that gank and the execution. Also, don't miss your flash stun.
Don't miss your flash stun, as well as not ganking the Malzahar.
To be fair, that's a hard flash stun to hit because he's expecting a reaction flash, so you want to wait as long as possible to be able to get it off, and it's a hard timing. That being said, though, if you're going to go gank a losing lane like that, you have to execute.
I mean, we saw there just on your screens that the CSD at 10 there was +9 for Mystic, so not quite at that 13 mark at 10 minutes, but let's remember that he moved to the mid lane to take down a mid turret pre-10 minutes, and in order to do that, had to sacrifice some CS. So although he's not hitting that mark, still making lots of moves with that early kill that went over to Mystic. But again, this wasn't an entirely WE game. You mentioned that G2 found plenty of mistakes that they could punish. Let's go ahead and look forward, though, to a WE engaged G2 rather TPing in behind this one.
This was around 16 minutes, and this was like, all right, G2 comes by. Notice that Viktor starts roaming down early. The engage begins, but the teleport behind is perfect. And this is when Gragas' teleport, you'll notice, is not available. They make a right reactive play. The equalize is perfect in them.
Yeah, and PerkZ is level 11 for this roam, so his ultimate packs a bigger punch. Viktor is a spectacular pick against double marksman, especially against Lucian, because Lucian can never close the range without risking getting one shot. So when PerkZ gets that triple kill, from that moment forward, G2 has a way to win.
And this is where you start to worry for WE, because there was very little thought put into that play. We just mentioned the advantages that they had. They just snowballed off of bottom lane. They took the first turret. Then they go for this with a teleport disadvantage, not accounting for the Taric ultimate either. This is built to buy time for the teleport to come in, and G2 strike perfectly.
But the optimism here is that G2 are putting a lot of thought into their early game. Again, Trick was making moves. We saw, of course, one that didn't work, one that did work. He was a lot more active in general. They drafted a lot more for early, and kind of the amusing thing is that it was Zven, actually, who needed to be the early game lifter on the Ashe, and it was actually PerkZ in a new role. He was on the late game carry, which was the Viktor.
Yeah, definitely late game hyper carry, but also I had a bunch of problems with itemization from both sides in this game. You're against double marksman, rushing a Spirit Visage on the Olaf. Not good. And then it waited until you were 4 items for Viktor before building your first null magic mantle. I mean, that's part of the reason G2 was able to get so far ahead. Very bad itemization out of the WE AD carries. Late game, they're going to get outscaled anyway, so they're maybe trying to snowball it with damage, but definitely a lot to point out there. And it just felt like Kobe, when he said they weren't thinking about their items either, it felt like.
Yeah, to Kobe's point, 3 kills go over to Viktor in that single replay. While you're dead, you might as well pick up a no magic mantle. You're there at the shop, but let's again realize that that was only midway through the game. Still many fights going both ways for the team, so we're going to take a look at another WE replay. This is 3 kills in the mid lane, plus the first Baron.
This is Team W trying to get aggressive right here and actually successfully killing PerkZ, but then they close a lot of close distance onto the Rumble.
Exactly. That's what makes, this game from PerkZ even more impressive. This was WE multiple times. There were Flash Malzahar ulting him, and he was still able to, get back up in most of the other fights. And be able to take down those AD carries that you are talking about.
But in multiple fights here, we actually saw W make some pretty big mistakes. 957, for example, some of his engages on Gragas left a lot to be desired. And if you actually think back, again, the scouting report being flipped in a way, we didn't see a lot of late game WE, and we finally see them in fairly even territory in late game fights and leaving a lot to be desired in their execution.
Yeah, you talk about miscoordination in the way that they execute on the fights. Our final fight, the Acer replay here for G2's victory, the turn under their own inhib turret and the chase down the mid lane to end it off.
And we see it opening up here. 957 again takes the Q, goes in and dies instantly. The front line is gone. Doesn't matter if you have 2 fed AD carries when your front line is running in all directions.
Yeah, there are a couple things that, signal that they really hadn't been that used to playing with this Ivern. He definitely did not want to take that Q on purpose. But also, Ivern, he bought the Mikhails, then he sold the Mikhails later, wasn't really, confident in his use of the item, doubling up on a lot of lockets, the redemption placements. There are a lot of things here as the execution from Team WE definitely was not clean.
Yeah, and I do want to focus on G2 still drafting a good late-game team composition. Double AD, having the Taric, having the Viktor. They had ways to kill the carries as well as defend against the carries. And Team WE, I feel like if they played cleaner, were killing the turrets and could have been able to move on, but they made a ton of mistakes.
Yeah, late game. PerkZ eclipsing 1.1k damage per minute in this game. That is insanity. But hey, we talked about his performance all tournament long, and if they were going to come away with a victory today, him and Zven, along with Trick, having to step up a bit. Now, I want to look forward to game 2 real briefly with the last couple seconds we have here on the desk. G2 going to flip to blue side. Papa Mithy, what are your thoughts here for WE in terms of cleaning it up, right? Because we still saw mechanical genius out of people like Mystic around those fights. So clearly, these players have not gotten individually worse. It's just around the execution.
I think returning to basics also with the draft is a big thing for them. They've looked so comfortable on the utility AD carry and the Ashe themselves. We talked about the utility side have been working for them. I think this ban phase forced them in a direction they had to go. They felt like they had to go first pick Ivern. They didn't want to leave that up for Trick, especially with Trick's struggles. And then everything from there fell apart for some decision making. So I think just, getting rid of the first game, getting out of your minds, and going back to basics is what WE will focus on.
Don't ban Lee Sin from Trick.
Exactly.
No.
That was our first reaction. We were like, whoa, you're going to first pick Ivern, ban Lee Sin. Just reverse those. I think you'll have a lot more success.
All righty. Well, G2 start the series with a win, but it's on Team WE to bounce back in game 2. MSI 2017 continues right after this.